Hello everyone, it's Joe here from Snakegraft FPL and we're back with another video. Today we're back with episode 2 of my Kaneless series. This is my draft FPL team where I drafted Kane in pick number 2. First round, he obviously then subsequently went to Bayern. So I'm kind of showcasing this team throughout the entire season to see how I get on, see how I deal with playing a draft team with basically no first pick. Something I think that some of you may find useful. So episode 1, we kind of looked at game week 1 and how that went down with Kane in the side but obviously not playing, and then we had a look at the waivers for game week 2. Well, we've had a few game weeks go on now, pre-game week 6, and the team is doing okay, and as you may tell from the title and the Harry Redknapp, there has been a reasonably big trade happen in the league, so we'll talk through that in a minute. Remember, if you enjoyed the video, hit the like button, subscribe to the channel if you're new. This is what happened in game week 5. I did manage to get a win, 40 points. Nothing to write home about. 45 is generally what I consider to be like the threshold of a decent game week. 45 and above is what I aim for. So yeah, 40's, you know, it's not terrible. It was a generally pretty low scoring week, so I did kind of get away with it. The only returns were Edouard, Doku and Gusto carrying me through, and Gordon as well. So yeah, very mixed. A few players I was very disgruntled with. And you know, I needed to make a change, really, I felt. So I must have spammed out over the last like 3 game weeks, I must have spammed out 50 trade offers, I reckon, just hoping that one of them would get a bite. And this is how the league table looks after those 5 game weeks. 3 wins and 2 losses, mixed start, 3rd in the league, only 4 points off the top, so I'm pretty happy. The overall score is low, 194 is quite low. I had a couple, the 2 losses were 2 really bad weeks. So hopefully going forward we'll pick that up a little bit. I'm still pretty confident, we've got plenty of time to go, a lot of season to unravel, and we'll see how we get on. So this is the trade that has gone through. I have given away Chilwell, Szoboszlai, Doku and Jackson, and I've received Bolly, Bruno Fernandes, Neto and Beto. So a little bit of context. So I'm basically paying quite heavily for Bruno Fernandes, and I think this does make a lot of sense. So Chilwell to start with. Chelsea have had a really good run of fixtures. They've kept 2 clean sheets so far. The defensive numbers are pretty good, but I do have Gusto as well. Reece James isn't coming back anytime soon. So from an attacking threat point of view, when he's starting left wing, obviously he has massive attacking threat. We've not seen anything so far. An assist in game week 1 is all he's managed, and the data isn't that good either. I mean, he is playing so far forward that you would expect the returns to just come, you know, just because of his quality and where he's playing, but it doesn't scream consistent to me. The fact that he was benched last week and came on also is a bit of a problem. And Pochettino did say he doesn't want his fullbacks going forward very much, which I guess is why Colwell's been playing left back. So we're only really a Mudryk run of form away from Chilwell not being in the side, which is a bit of an issue, I think. The fixtures also turn in a few game weeks. I don't think he's a terrible pick. I wouldn't drop him, but I was quite happy to get rid of him to get the upgrade. Szoboszlai next. I think he's a really good pick. He was the one that I didn't really want to get rid of, but I do have Luis Diaz in this draft as well. So the double Liverpool midfield, okay, they've got good fixtures coming up. I would have kept it if I could have, but you know, I've already got Luis Diaz, so I'm quite happy to move him on, mainly for Bruno Fernandes. Doku had a couple of really good performances. I expect him to be a pretty decent pick, but knowing what Pep's like, I'm not convinced he's going to keep his place in the team once Jack Grealish is fit, and I don't think both of them will play. I think it's probably likely to be one or the other in that left wing role, so I think he's going to miss out on his fair share of minutes. And Nicholas Jackson, last of all, I mean, anyone that owns him knows he's been an absolute nightmare. So many chances, ridiculously high expected goal involvement, good performances but no end product, 4 yellow cards, all for dissent. not ideal. And the thing that actually, I was quite happy to hold him and hope that just the returns would come because the data was so good. But in the Bournemouth game, he didn't even really play very well. And sometimes you do see this where a player's sort of negative confidence and underperformance, instead of the variance going back to them performing at a regular level, sometimes that underconfidence just brings the data and brings the performances down and kind of meets on the low side as opposed to on the high side. So I've got a feeling Nicholas Jackson might be an issue. Listen, he could easily turn it around and over the next 5-10 game weeks go on an absolute tear, but that's a risk I'm willing to take to get hold of Bruno Fernandes, who is a proper first round pick. He's third overall for expected goal involvement among all players behind Haaland and Salah. Someone that I'm more than happy to just sit on all season long, and I think he's just going to tick over with returns. I think it's probably a good time to buy him because he has underperformed so far. I don't expect that to continue. He's got absolute Premier League pedigree, so I'm happy with that. Neto is someone I'm really high on. As I said in the waiver picks this game week, he has got a decent run of fixtures coming up. His underlying data is fantastic. I'm more than happy to have him in the side. Beto looks like he's just going to be a steady performer. I can rotate him with Archer, who I have first on the bench at the moment, and I can just play the one with a better fixture, and Bolly's going to go straight out in the waivers. So overall, I'm really happy with this trade. I think it makes my team look better because I was struggling beforehand with having quite a lot of picks and not many slots that I could waiver in and out and get creative with, whereas I think this kind of opens the team up a little bit. So this is how it looks now pre-waivers. The goalkeeper situation is annoying. Vicario and Steele are the two I've got. I'm hoping Steele plays this week. I know he played in Europe, but I actually think that means he's slightly more likely to play in the Premier League as well. I don't really know why, but I feel like De Zerbi isn't rotating them based on, fitness or injury. It seems like he's doing it based on their performances and how he wants them to play, and I'm hoping that Steele gets the nod this week. The problem I've got is that Verbruggen is free, but I don't like the Brighton double up of Steele and Verbruggen. Even though it covers you, their fixtures aren't good enough and the defence isn't good enough to warrant having both keepers, I don't think personally. I could do it for this game week, but then going forward I'd be in trouble. Vicario being the alternate to Steele is quite good because I feel like even in tough fixtures he could get a couple of save points. So it's not the end of the world. Obviously this week particularly the fixtures are drastically different, so I'm really hoping that Steele plays. But I will probably start Vicario more often than Steele anyway, so it's not the end of the world. Defence is looking okay, especially once I've made a couple of waivers. Gusto and Hickey definitely going to play this game week. Both have decent home fixtures. Stones I've got in the lineup at the moment. I hope he is fit to play for us at home. He was kind of touch and go for the Champions League game, so he may well play. I don't think Pep's going to rush him back though, so I wouldn't be surprised if he is benched. And that is why I'm going to make a few defensive waivers for Bolly and Worrell, so I've got cover if Stones doesn't play. The idea is that hopefully I get one with a good fixture this week to cover Stones if need be, and one with a good fixture next week, so that I'm prepared for game week 7. In terms of the attack, I'm more than happy to start Edouard and Beto. I know Beto is playing against my defender Hickey, but I feel like with Everton at the moment, if they get a return, it's almost guaranteed that Beto's going to be involved because he's such a focal point. So I think that playing both of those isn't ideal, but it's not the end of the world. I could play Archer at home to Newcastle instead, but I don't really want to do that because I feel like Beto's got the better fixture. Even though Archer is at home, I could easily see Newcastle keeping a clean sheet there. In terms of midfield, this is where it gets a little bit trickier. Luis Diaz, Bruno Fernandes, Neto, I'm definitely keeping and starting, no doubt about it there. Although Luis Diaz did play 90 minutes in Europe in the week, which is annoying, but we'll see. I'm just going to have to start him and hope that he plays. If he doesn't get on at all, I'll get Archer off the bench, not the end of the world. Anthony Gordon looks like even though he did play at AC Milan in the week, He only played 60 minutes and he also played last weekend, so it seems that Eddie Howe thinks he is very important to the team, so I think he's probably going to start. And then lastly, Harry Wilson. Away to Palace is not a good fixture. I feel like that's a decent clean sheet opportunity for Palace, so I probably will look to waiver Wilson out as long as I can get a decent option coming in for that slot. So these are the waivers I've gone for at the moment. Jacob Ramsey, top of the pile. I feel like he is the one that is kind of going under the radar. I would have put him in my waiver picks video this week, but I honestly didn't think he was going to play in Europe, and I thought he might come off the bench at the weekend and then be ready for next game week. He was kind of tipped to be in my game week 7 waivers, but the fact that he came off the bench in midweek in Europe and played half an hour makes me think maybe he is ready to start this game week, and I do think he's a fantastic pick for the rest of the season, so someone I definitely want to get my hands on. Trossard I've got second for Wilson, with Martinelli likely out of the North London derby. I think it's a good punt for this week. I may drop him again after that if Martinelli's back fit, but we'll wait and see on that. Koleosho I really like. I think he's a fun pick, and I'm looking at him for the United fixture and then the double game week. And then onto the defenders, Ward, Dunk. I'm hopeful that I get one of those two for this game week. If not, I'm more than happy to start Bell at home to Wolves this week as well. So there'll be one of those I'll play for this week. If I don't get two of those three, I'll get probably Aguerd. He has a terrible fixture this week, but then next week they have a really good fixture that I can't think of off the top of my head. It's someone like Wolves at home. I think it might be Wolves at home. So they have a good fixture next week. It might be Forest at home, something like that. So he is in my, hopefully I'll get something like Ward and Bell, and that would be ideal. I haven't run the waivers yet, so that's going to happen in about 20 minutes, and then I'm going to record the final little piece of this video. Okay, so the waivers have now processed, and it looks like I got Bell and Aguerd for my 2 Forest defenders, and I did manage to get hold of Jacob Ramsey for Harry Wilson. So I've got a little bit of a conundrum here. I'm obviously going to start Bell. Stones has now been ruled out by Pep in the press conference, which is really frustrating. I cannot wait for him to be back. It's doing my head in. That is the annoying thing about John Stones, but he's such a good asset that I don't want to drop him. So I am just working with 4 defensive slots at the moment. So obviously Bell starts, Hickey, Gusto in the back 3, Aguerd will be the backup. I don't think it's likely that any of them miss out, so I shouldn't need him. And then the midfield, Jacob Ramsey, Luis Diaz, Bruno Fernandes, Neto, Gordon, Edouard and Better up front with Archer on the bench. All I'm worrying about really is that Jacob Ramsey still, I suspect, probably won't start this week. Gordon is a little bit of a risk because of his minutes in the Champions League, and Luis Diaz is definitely a risk because of his minutes in the Europa League. So I've got 3 midfielders with the potential to not play. And then Edouard and Beto, I'm pretty happy will play. So I suspect I may get Archer off the bench this week. The only problem being is that if 2 or more of them don't play, I've got Aguerd, Liverpool away, which is not ideal. So I may, on Saturday before the deadline, have to move Aguerd out for someone with a decent fixture this week, just in case I'm going to need that extra bench slot. But I do think it's unlikely that 2 of them don't even get off the bench. There is a chance that I start Archer over Jacob Ramsey this week if we get any kind of indication that he's not going to start, because I do think Archer's pretty much guaranteed to start. So I would rather play him if he is going to start and Ramsey isn't. But I'm going to wait and see on that, because it could be that Jacob Ramsey gets to start and then I'm more than happy with that. So yeah, the team's looking pretty good. I don't think this is going to be my highest scoring game week by any means. Got a couple of defenders playing attackers and stuff like that, so I don't think it's going to be a fantastic week, but in the long term view I am now much happier with this team than I was before. Okay, that wraps up this episode of Kaneless. I hope you're enjoying this series. I'm going to try and do about 1 a month, 1 every 3 or 4 game weeks, just to update on where my head's at with the team and how it's going, and kind of what I'm doing to try and improve the team as the season goes on. So if you do find this useful, make sure you hit the like button, subscribe to the channel if you're new. Thank you all for watching, and I'll see you next time.